Welcome back to Siesta with Suki. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I know I'm always telling you guys I have a special guest. Today's gonna, and you know what? Every one of the guests are actually really special. So, today I am joined by Siosi Samuels. And he's just I know I use the word fascinating a lot, right? I'm gonna have to find another word because I'm about to tell you how fascinating he is. So I'm gonna tell you why he's fascinating. He is legitimately the smartest person I know, for real, not even pretend. I think he's an actual genius, but the crazy part is, because I've known some geniuses. I've talked to geniuses, I enjoy the conversation, and no knock against the geniuses I know, I apologize in advance, but sometimes, they're a little weird, but that's what comes with genius, right? COC is fun. They do all this fun stuff, luce libre, fun wedding. I mean, they're actually fun people, him and his wife. And so they're fascinating because they're really, really smart, really, really tech, know a lot about a lot of things, and are fun people too. So we have fun here on Siesta with Suki. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Siosi, who I'm going to give a couple minutes to give us the 2-minute spiel about himself. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate the time and a little intro. Okay, so I am actually from Fiji originally. I was born in Fiji. My mother is Tuvaluan Samoan. My dad is Fijian Indian. I definitely don't think I'm a genius, but I'm honored that you think
You're
that
gonna
I am.
know by the time we finish here. We have 1 hour together. I promise you. Take out the notebooks. I promise.
I'm a managing director for a consultancy called FIA. We'll talk more about that. I've been in the emerging tech space for the last 10 plus years or so, and I work at the intersection of community, culture, and technology. I'm a big fan of the yin-yang symbol, Taoism, balance and harmony of all things. And you'll see that probably throughout my entire career, my life, there's always this play between, the masculine and feminine, the opposites.
Okay.
And
All right, well, we're going to salud to this.
Aha. Salud.
Salud. Gracias.
Oh, yeah.
Now, we're going to start at the beginning. I like to start at the beginning with people. So here's the first thing you're all going to write down. It's third culture kids. So I'm going to mess up my thing. TKS.
TCK.
Oh, I'm messing up. My English, my Spanish. Too many things going on in my head. TKS.
Yeah.
So tell us the origin story. We know obviously who your parents are, but where you've lived, how you came to be, and how TKS fits all within it.
Yeah. So third culture kids, TCK. This is a concept that I first heard about when I was in the 4th grade.
Oh,
so
okay.
So this was when my family had just moved to Bangladesh. So
From Fiji?
From Australia.
From Australia.
Yes.
Okay, so you had already been on the move.
Yes. So when I was 2, that's actually when I moved to Australia from Fiji.
Okay.
And then from 2 to 8, I was in Australia. And then at 8 years old, that's when we moved to Bangladesh. So my dad, he's an engineer. He got a job posting in Bangladesh. And so I was in the 4th grade at that time. And I remember, I think it was at the end of the year, we were all sitting in the auditorium somewhere, and our superintendent told us, okay, it's summer break coming up, all of you are going to go back to your home countries, and you might experience something called culture shock, or a reverse culture shock. And that's when he introduced the term third culture kid. And, it didn't really hit me until I graduated from high school, actually, that this would be a great definition or category for kids that grew up like us, which was essentially, at an international school in a country that wasn't our own. Most of the kids were either military brats, maybe children of missionaries, or had postings like my father. And so, from that, the TCK journey really only started.
Well, let's go back to people
yes.
like we're 2 years old.
Yes.
Define TCK. Define what a third culture kid is.
So a third culture kid, from my understanding, is essentially you were born in one country, parents are from another or multiple, and then raised in a third.
Okay.
So that combination is generally where you see a third culture kid.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys, it's like a cult now. Okay, I'm sorry, I won't say cult. It's not. But there is a group. So at some point, you guys find each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want to go back to that concept for a little bit, because actually my son is a third culture kid. He just doesn't know it yet.
Yeah.
And now you're the third culture adult,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So you've transitioned from being the kid to the
Yeah.
adult. What are the biggest challenges, would you say? Like, do you have a challenge with the whole sense of belonging?
I did for a long time. I think up until 25. And it was at around 25 that I then started to settle into the identity that like I can be everywhere and nowhere, and that I belong everywhere and nowhere. So I think some people use the term global citizen,
Yes.
right? And I think some people who, when asked the question, where are you from, they struggle with, generally you'll see these tendencies or traits of third culture kids. So that's usually like the first test. If you ask, someone is like, where are you from? And if they struggle with it, it's usually a signal that they might be a TCK.
Okay.
Yeah. But generally it's, that concept of belonging doesn't actually have a lot to do with physical place. It's more the people. So I think a lot of people, let's say back in Australia when I went back, they all had their identity tied to their suburb, their city, their country. But actually for TCKs, it's not often the place. It's more the group of people, no matter where they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is Mexico. I just want to let you know we're live, and
Yeah.
we're not live, but you're gonna hear the stuff in the background. It's okay. It's okay. So I ask you this because I just don't know that I qualify quite as a third culture. I guess I'm second culture.
Yeah.
But I know that one of the challenges that kind of struck me, like I am proudly Haitian.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's weird for some Haitians. I'm not Haitian enough.
Yeah, interesting. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you take on you're proud of the culture.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
You're going to explain this all to us.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, And I remember during your wedding,
Yep.
I went to George's wedding, Siosi's wedding. So first of all, can I tell you I invited myself? That's literally what happened. Like, no shame. We were at the movie theater.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Oh, we got engaged," and I was like, "Ding, ding, ding! Wait a minute." I think that means the wedding hasn't happened yet. And so we were like, well, we are available, and they had no choice but to be like, you're invited. And I was like,
that was
yes,
great. Yeah.
yes. First wedding here in Oaxaca.
Yep.
And it was absolutely fabulous and fascinating. But we're going to get to the wedding in a second, but I want to
Yep.
get back to this concept.
Yep.
So I wear my Haitian culture with pride. I
Yeah.
will, red and blue right here.
Yeah.
I acknowledge the crazy sometimes that Haitian people will do and the nuts stuff that's going on in the country, but I still have a great sense of pride of being Haitian in my heart.
Yeah.
But the physical time I've spent in Haiti, at best 4 months.
Crazy.
At best.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to, one, feel very strongly
Yep.
about a place that you haven't necessarily been, but that's the culture I grew up in.
Yeah.
I always tell people it was Haiti in my house, because it really was.
Yeah.
America was out there
Yep.
somewhere,
Yep.
but the second we walked through those doors, all that stuff, American stuff,
Yeah. Leave it out the door.
leave it at the door.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
no repeating that stuff in my house.
Yeah.
So I wonder for your end, do you feel sometimes that there's not an acceptance? Are you fully accepted? You just talked to me about a ceremony that I'd love for you to share with the audience.
Sure, yeah.
That you just did. How does the acceptance part work for you?
Yeah, no, another great question, because I think growing up, trying to find my identity, because my mom was very strong on the Polynesian side, and my dad, he's from the Fijian Indian side. So even though he has like the Indian culture, the Polynesian side was a lot stronger for my mom. And so we were proud Polynesians growing up, but that was, up until 8, right? Being essentially migrants from Fiji to Australia. It was that sort of first stage, right, where you're moved to a new country and you're still holding on to your culture from where I was born and where my parents were from. And then it's like the next stage was like transitioning into the TCK side, which I didn't even know was a thing, right? And I was shaped by the experiences at our school. But for identity, for me, the reason why I think I feel more of the Polynesian side is because of my mom. But I have also experienced when I go back, I'm not Polynesian enough, right? And so everywhere I've been, whether it's like personally or even in my career, I've never been enough of. So I've actually made a career at thriving on the edges.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're gonna jump into the wedding, and I'm gonna tell you why we're gonna jump into the wedding. So the wedding legitimately was the most organized, high-tech wedding I have ever been to. So first, we get the invitation by email. I was okay with that. That was fine.
Yeah.
And then there was a password in the email, but I didn't remember there was a password in the email. So when I go look for this stuff, it was like, "What's your password?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what the password is." And then I'm like, "Okay, so we get that." And then before the wedding, there were, and we had little things reminding us throughout. He didn't have to worry about me because I was already looking at my dress, my hair. I mean, I've been working for months on the wedding thing, so there was no question about me. But I understood the other people. Then we got WhatsApp groups, but it wasn't just one group. It was like several groups and subgroups. So then it was like, let's make friends. Yeah. So you got to talk to me about this, because how did this even come about for you to? Yeah. And how much? And I want to know, really, this is real talk for our audience. How much work is it to even set that up?
Interesting. Sometimes I think the things that come natural to us, other people might think it's difficult. Okay. So for me, that was very natural to do. And I think also I was on a high of having all our family and friends together. That didn't feel like a lot of work.
Okay.
So I don't know if it was a lot of work. I'd have to ask somebody else like close to me at the time whether it looked like a lot. But yeah, that whole WhatsApp community feature, a lot of people didn't even know about, right, for WhatsApp. And I had already been experimenting with that with other groups. And so when it came time to the wedding, it actually wasn't planned. The WhatsApp community stuff.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
So it was more the problem. The problem was I was getting a bunch of DMs with the same questions. And so my solution, entrepreneur mind, came out, and it was like, I need a way to make this more efficient. And so the groups is how it emerged. And when it comes to community building, which I talked, that's part of like the business and career I've had, emergent communities is definitely a thing. I think a lot of people try to plan for a lot of stuff up front, but it's really more like a gardener. You have your right tools, you have the right things in front of you, and then you kind of wait for stuff to emerge. And so the problem emerged, and then the community feature via WhatsApp emerged from that. And it was very organic. As people were asking me questions, I was creating new groups based off of that. And then people were then suggesting their own groups, and that's how it made it easier to manage, because leaders just emerged from the group itself. Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you all heard that. And so you're where I am, right? Genius, right? Okay, so he says this to you, but you watch this, because I know a bunch of people send me DMs, and my solution is to start blocking folks, right? So I'm blocking. He's creating WhatsApp groups. Yep. So totally different mindset. Yep. And it actually worked, because we ended up creating a human design group, which was fantastic, because I still have to do my thing in there, and then you start meeting different people. Yeah. So we're actually connecting with each other. Outside of the wedding, even after. Yes. So it made a lot of sense. And that actually brings me to what I wanted to talk to you about when it comes to community and tech. Yeah. I have found, at least for me, that tech almost feels like it separates me more a little bit from people. But you have made it a commitment to kind of bring the community back into the tech. Yeah. And so my question for you is more of a philosophical question. Do you believe that this model can be replicated in every kind of scenario, tech-wise? Or it's just you kind of have to pick your scenarios?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, because I think I've always been using a combination of my intuition and then like the technical skills, right? So again, I've been an in-between type of person, we're talking about the edges, right? Just because of my upbringing. And I've always found a way to spot the edges and then find a way to bridge gaps between like even groups. And so for tech, I think I just see them as tools, and the tools always evolve. But something I noticed from history is that a lot of people end up building their cultures and rituals around the tools.
Yes.
And then when the tools change, it's a habit change. So it's not necessarily the tool or tech that's the issue. It's because it's different. And you see this play out even without the technology, right? Xenophobia, right? You might be used to a group of people that look alike. And then all of a sudden you might have, people migrating in, tourists. I just saw news yesterday that in Barcelona they're protesting against the tourists.
I know, and squirting them with water. Yeah. It's crazy.
So the way I see it is like the tool's tech side is actually a human pattern, but applied to a material like tool. Right? Because we do this with people, and we are doing it with things, the tools and tech. So, but I think people get caught up in the thing as opposed to what's going on inside, right? A lot of the time. And so often I'm just using the tech to like reverse engineer the behavior. So I see the problem, but then I actually match
Okay.
the tools and tech to the culture. So that's why, like, what I did for the wedding, it could work, but you'd have to look at what your group is used to and using,
Yes.
and then adjust that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what you mentioned before is probably my challenge with tech a little bit, and just the age that we're in. And I'm going to take you back to like the very basic bottom level.
Yeah.
I just finished telling my soon-to-be 11-year-old
Yeah.
that we already limit television and everything, all tech during
Great.
the week.
Yeah.
And he was only allowed on the weekends, and we're going to limit it even more.
Yep.
Because what I was finding, someone who had typically been a person who, if he gets around other kids, he would kind of talk to them and play.
Yep.
I watched him this past weekend on his device.
Yep. A lot of
A
kids.
behavior change.
Yes.
And I watched other kids there, and the kids did not talk to each other.
Yep.
And so
Yep.
for me, I completely understand the tools,
Yeah.
and I understand tools being created. I am not 100% sure that all the tools should be made available to people.
I agree.
I do think, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree.
I
Yeah.
like when people agree with me. It's a good thing. Oh, we will salute to that.
Yeah. Salute to that.
It's okay.
Salute. Oh yeah.
You know, and specifically for me is, I really believe we have to start with the principles.
Yep.
There's the principle first, then the tool, and then
Yep.
to ask ourselves, is this tool going to make society better? In your case, you're 100% right. The WhatsApp group, because of your group, enhanced.
Yep.
My father doesn't know how to send messages.
Yeah.
Right?
A different problem, right?
Yeah, that group wasn't going anywhere.
Yep, exactly.
I'd probably have to do a weekly phone kind
Yeah.
of thing for
Yeah.
them,
Yep.
and be like, okay, everyone, on Sunday we're meeting at 10 o'clock, and this is where we're going to do all questions.
Yeah.
Just a different tool,
Yep.
obviously matched for the society.
Yes.
One thing I appreciate actually about being here in Mexico is, at least here in Oaxaca, I can't
Yeah.
speak for the rest of Mexico,
Yeah.
because things are moving a little slower.
Yep.
And the technology is a little slower to catch on here.
Yep.
I believe here in Oaxaca we have the unique opportunity to watch it
Yeah.
and say to ourselves, that's okay, and then, this probably is not.
Yeah.
Even when you talk about the issue of, because I read about what happened in Barcelona as
Yeah.
well, the over-tourism.
Yep.
I find the challenge I have with technology, and even the way we're able to communicate with each other,
Yeah.
information comes at you.
Yep.
But it's not thoughtful. So it's like people just throwing facts. We have this many tourists. Okay, that's nice,
Yeah.
but nothing happens by itself. This has been made part of a budget. This budget is what politicians and people are relying on to build that bridge that they promised you.
Yeah.
And this restaurant is here because of these people here.
Yeah.
So I have such a challenge when I see even some of the news items today. We've come and we've turned ourselves into like a soundbite society. So I give you sound bites. I'm just letting you know. Okay. So here's the
Yeah.
thing. I might not like it,
Yeah.
but I know you got to do the YouTube short, so I'll do it for you. But let me just be on record as knowing that
Yeah.
I'm actually doing this consciously. But honestly, I'd rather you watch the whole episode and we think a little bit together with each other. So yes, I will soundbite for you to hook you, but watch, and send to
Yeah.
your friends.
Yeah.
Like. Okay. But it's so what I feel like I'm watching is the way people think. Either the way people think is changing, or I was in blissful ignorance as a kid,
Yeah.
and I believed people were thinking,
Yeah.
and I was wrong. So either could be true. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm thrilled at seeing how much people don't think about some of the challenges, and we throw sound bites on it, and then politicians fall right into this.
Yeah.
And they give you the sound bites, and we won't even talk about the debate that I watched the other day, because it was
Oh my gosh.
it was,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
a little scary. But what was real scary for me was the lack of substance. I was like, did we really spend an hour and a half and actually not talk about anything? It was sound bites.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing happened.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'd like to see technology start doing a little bit. I wouldn't mind. I mean, I do mind my son on the games. I know.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't mind the game automatically come with 20 minutes in. hey, sir, did you get up and go out and run today? So if I'm talking to all you tech folks, if as we're putting the technology together, if we think about the end person, the human at the end, and the behaviors that we know are good for them, we should not be sitting 2, 3, 4 hours straight. We're supposed to get up. Right? It's ChatGPT, I'm talking to you guys, can absolutely say to me, hey, Suki, because you know what it talks to me. Hey, Suki, you've been on here for an hour. Just sending a quick reminder for you that it's good to get up and walk in. I'm saying it's, thoughtful technology is really where I'd like to see us go. I think in your case, it's natural for you because as a third culture kid, you're always you're speaking different languages, even if it's so-called the same language. English in one area is not the English in another area.
True.
You're always interpreting. You're always actually listening. And so what I'm hoping, and we're going to talk a little bit more AI and emerging technologies in the next segment, I'm hoping that more people, like you, and I feel like you're less of a unicorn than you think. There's a bunch of folks out there kind of hiding and almost, what's the word I'm thinking of? You're a little afraid because being an outlier for some does not feel natural or good. That you have to come to that aha moment where you're just like, oh, me is good.
Yes.
And me doesn't have to look like anybody else.
Exactly.
It's okay.
Yeah.
And being unique, I love, being unique. Oaxaca makes that a little difficult because I walk around and there are kind of a lot of mini-me's. Like I talk to people and I'm like, oh, I think that too. And then I'm like, oh, am I not more special? Like what happened? I don't know. But it's good to come to that space internally where you're thinking for yourself, and that thought process actually allows you to come up with solutions that aren't part of the group, think. So we're going to end with that on this first half. In the next half, we are going to talk. This is where I'm going to take out my notebook. You think I'm playing? For real. I have a notebook. And we're going to talk about one thing that you mentioned to me when we first met. I'd love to know what happened with the project with the island. Yep. Okay. So I will tell you more because you got to go to part number 2. And we're going to talk about really so I'm going to call him George only because George is what we call him on a group that we're all part of. We'll talk about that group here just in case you don't go to part 2, though you should, which is the GSD group. So I do want to talk about that in this segment. Talk to us about the GSD, what it does, how it works globally, and why you should join us if you're serious about doing work in Oaxaca.
Okay, so GSD Global is the name of a group that actually started in 2016, but actually it started out as a group called the Pack.
Okay.
So I actually have an affinity for the white wolf as a symbol, as an animal, for a whole bunch of things, which actually relates to an incident or event that happened in New Zealand, 2007. I just became obsessed with wolves. And that has actually influenced a lot of my work with productivity, accountability, etc. Because if you look into a lot of different cultures, the wolf exists as even an ancestor. Like, for example, we have in some Native American cultures, they'll have a wolf totem for their clan.
Yes.
Right? Over in Mongolia, they believe that they were descendants of the blue wolf. In Turkey, you also have this connection to the wolf. I think it was also in Hungary. They have this myth or lore about an iron wolf. And just in so many different countries around the world, the wolf is present. And I actually learned a lot about community building, productive community building, from the wolf. And so that is what inspired the name of the group in 2016 for the Pack. And it was just an accountability group where I brought people together and we just created our own method around how to get stuff done. And then over time, we realized that, not everybody may be into the esoteric side or, the deeply philosophical side. And it just transformed into GSD Global. And GSD stands for Get Stuff Done. The term we like to use is Get Shit Done. You're more than welcome to, take that out. Yep. And, and so that then has kind of traveled with me for every city that I've moved to. And so when I came to Oaxaca, I was just looking at finding a group of people who wanted to get stuff done together. And every fortnight we would just meet up at a restaurant in Centro. And that's how we connect. And people have just been referring very naturally, which is how I wanted it, very light touch.
Yes.
But it is all about getting stuff done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I am a part of the group, in full disclosure, because, I try to be honest with you guys. I have not made it to, I'm always doing this, that, and running around like a crazy person.
Everyone's busy.
But every week I say to myself, I wonder when they're meeting this week. Because one week I'm just going to show up and it's going to be like, hey, there she goes. But I faithfully participate and join within the group.
Yeah.
So we are going to leave this here on the part 1, okay? So first of all, I know you guys are with me, right? You had your notebooks, and we are taking them to Jeopardy with us. We didn't even know all that about the different wolves. We're gonna have them on the side, and we're gonna be like, that's a wolf question. And then we're gonna make sure to bring him in with us. So that is it for part 1 of Siesta with Suki with Siosi George Samuels. We are going to talk AI. We're gonna talk emerging tech in part 2. So I will see you on the other side. Ciao.